Welcome to My Wellness Pie. I'm your host, Monika. Here, I unearth the tips, tricks, hacks, and how-tos from thought leaders and experts in wellness. From leading nutritionists to world champion athletes, biohackers and health pioneers, I get the juice from the gurus so that you have what you need to live your best life. Plus, I'll share with you some of my own experiences that have led me around the world seeking new ways to nurture the body and mind. So for anyone wanting some inspiration and motivation for a happier and healthier life, tune in and subscribe because all you need is a little slice of wellness. Today I'm joined by Kalymnios. Harry is a consultant, speaker and trainer on mindset, resilience and how to feel superhuman. He shares his simple and practical philosophies on health and well-being, both online and in person. From the TEDx stage to multinational corporations, Harry's mission is to help people unlock their own inner superhuman and become the best self-leaders they can be. He is the author of 2 books and a regular YouTuber helping empower people all around the world. Harry's model is a holistic approach that looks at making small improvements across the various elements in our lives. Really simple and powerful stuff, guys. Our chat is all about how to tap into these elements in order to unlock our inner superhuman and reach our full potential. Welcome to the show, Harry. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today and find out how to unlock my inner superhuman. But before we begin, can you tell me how you began your day today?
Today, slightly different from normal. I did start with a meditation, which is quite normal, but then I had to duck out straight away and actually teach yoga. So I taught yoga from 7:15 to 8:15 this morning. It's now 10:15 here where I am in the UK. Came back and just made a juice and a smoothie. And that's not atypical. So yeah, I normally start the day with some movement and exercise and meditation and a whole host of things.
Wonderful. Now, I just want to ask you, I have read that you are a Budokan yoga teacher. I've not heard of that style of yoga. So what does that entail?
Yeah, that's a style of yoga which is really a fusion between martial arts and vinyasa flow yoga, animal flow, primal pattern movements. It's actually, Budokan is a whole system of movement philosophy, if you like. Yoga is one stream. They have like a mixed martial arts stream. They've got a calisthenics and mobility stream. And it comes actually out of Miami. It comes out from LA, but it's now based in Miami by a guy called Cameron Shane, who used to be Charlie Sheen's bodyguard back in the 80s and taught Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston's from the TV series Friends, Budokan. And so I've actually been doing yoga for like 10 years and I was doing more like Ashtanga, Vinyasa flow, Hatha. And then about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, I qualified as a yoga teacher in Budokan. Although I teach, like today I wasn't teaching Budokan, today I was teaching just a Vinyasa flow, if you like.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really cool, unusual style that people do love.
It sounds
way of a spirit warrior.
Amazing. I'll have to give it a try. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll pick up where we were having a conversation just before I was traveling. Obviously, I spent some time in Australia, but coming back from traveling around 17, 18 years ago now, so I was away for about 3 years and I came back. I kind of fell into the city job life in London. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had a first-class physics and astrophysics degree from Manchester University, but didn't want to do anything to do with that. And just trickled through jobs, doing some legal work. And then I ended up actually through a connection that I met on a train, working at the London Stock Exchange for a company called Accenture, which is quite a big consultancy company. And I was working just solely at the stock exchange there for a number of years. And I felt that I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So I was in that dangerous place of not hating it enough to do anything about it, but not loving it enough for it to really want me to make it a career. And then around 2010, so after the financial crisis, which we were still kind of feeling the effects of it back in 2010, there were still many redundancies. So I took that opportunity to take redundancy from the stock exchange. And I'd been interested in a topic or a field of psychology, you could call it, although probably those in traditional psychology won't like it being called like this, but NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is all around understanding how we communicate really with ourselves and other people as well. And I've been interested in that for a while. So I started on a course in 2010, and that led me down a bit of a rabbit hole. Let's say, if you remember the Matrix, there was the red pill and the blue pill that Neo was invited to take. I took the red pill, and it led me down a rabbit hole as I started exploring new avenues and shifting my paradigm on what it meant to be successful, what it meant to have health and vitality. As I started seeing people who were defying what I had currently had a view on. And at the same time as I left the stock exchange, I recognized after my NLP course that I wanted to do something with that, be that coaching or anything else. And so I started coaching, but at the same time, I did go back into contracting. So I was working at a traditional company, Sainsbury's, a big supermarket here, and I was working in the head office. And I was as a contractor and recognized the fact that actually I'm only going to get paid if I'm at work. There's no such thing as sick pay if you're a contractor, and you have to be on it and perform better than those employed because you're costing them more money, and they need to renew your contract, etc., etc. So I recognized that health was really of vital importance to me, and I'd already massively been into exercise my entire life, but not necessarily health, thinking that they were one and the same when they were really in fact different. And so I started going down the rabbit hole of health and vitality. Like I said, I saw people who were defying my previously held paradigms about what it meant to be healthy, what it meant to age, what it meant to have all the vitality and energy that you want in the world. And as I started going deeper into that world, I started being exposed to people who were saying, well, if you're going to help people, you should learn to speak from stage, and you should write a book, and you should do all these things to get your message out there. And so I started to develop all of those skills. I wanted to go to the gym before work. I wanted to go to Toastmasters speaking clubs after work. I wanted to write my book on the side. And I wanted to do all of that. And I recognized that fundamentally, it was all about energy. And obviously being a physicist, let's say, quote unquote physicist, or doing a physics degree, everything fundamentally in the universe is about energy. One of the quotes I like from Nikola Tesla was, if you want to understand or unlock the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so it made sense to me that it doesn't matter if you've got the best strategies and tools and techniques and goal setting things in the world. If you don't have the energy to execute on those visions, it's all pointless. It doesn't matter if you have got you want to be a great father or mother or anything like that, but actually you're too tired to take care of them, or you put them first, which often parents do, but actually it's very much like the metaphor of putting the mask on the airplanes. You've got to put your own mask on first in order to help other people. And so it all came down to energy. I started researching high-performing people who would define things, and then ultimately after many years and making hundreds of changes to my own life, which saw my energy, my vitality, my production or productivity, my relationships all increased massively, I decided to start to distill what I was learning down into a formula, if you like, and a framework, and thinking there must be some pattern to all of this that I can teach other people. Then I put everything down on a massive piece of paper that I'd been doing over. So this was from about 2010 to 2013. So I'd had 4 years of changes. And then I distilled it around 2013. I figured that actually everything I was doing went into 4 main areas. And then that is now what I call the leadership beat model. And that is now, if you like, my life's mission to propagate the information from that out to people so that they can live healthy, vital lives. And that's kind of where we are now. And after 2 books, 1 more in development, lots of speaking and training and coaching in corporations and individuals on these topics, that's where I am today.
Thank you for sharing that. It's fascinating. And I will say, I really love that you are tapping into that whole NLP, the psychology around it, and that kind of work that you do
Yeah.
with energy as well. So, I mean, and your whole framework and your philosophy is around how to unlock your inner human. Can you break that down for me?
Inner superhuman. Yeah. So it's all about unlocking your inner superhuman. So what I say is, firstly, my brand name is called The Thought Gym, as in thinking. And the reason for that is because I recognized early on, even before I came up with what I call the leadership beat model, which is the energy framework or the leadership framework, I recognize that the reason people aren't sticking to changes, people know what to do, they just don't do what they know. And this comes down to the fact that people are trying to change behaviors before they change the mindset that drives the behavior. They join a gym in January, they give up by February, they start a new diet, they either finish it early or they finish it and then they revert back to type, because they haven't changed their values, their beliefs, their identity around who they are and what they believe. If you believe cooking healthy is boring or expensive or time consuming, it doesn't matter if you know the benefits, you're still not going to do it. So it was all about that mindset piece, really. That was the driving factor, because that drives everything else. And really unlocking your inner superhuman is about finding yourself on your best day. Imagine yourself on your best day, which we all have a day where everything's flowing, but maybe that's once in a while. And it's really about taking that best day, the energy, the vitality, the focus, the productivity, the relationships you've got, and 10xing that, and making that, instead of like 1 day in 10, be more like 8 days out of 10 or 9 days out of 10. It's unrealistic to think, 10 out of 10, we're going to be always up, because we have our cycles ebb and flow throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout our years and lifetimes, that, sometimes that's just natural. But what we want to be able to do is be aware of what it takes to get to that level and be that way. And the reason I call it superhuman, which is really about, like I say, being your best self, not about doing superhuman feats such as holding your breath for like 26 minutes, which is a world record, believe it or not. And it's really about unlocking that part of you that can really drive change and get you to where you want to get. And because I've always been into like comics and superheroes and things like that, and everything I was doing in my own life was about making myself better, whether that was from an energy perspective or learning how to do speed reading or photo reading or anything. It was all about, how do I make myself that little bit better tomorrow than I was today.
How can we use this on a very practical level if someone wants to implement this?
So in order to do that, I will explain simply what the philosophy is, if that makes sense. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay, so like I said, it's called the leadership beat model. So beat as in BEAT, beat of the drum. And it's a metaphor. So BEA and T stand for those 4 areas I was talking about before that I discovered led to health, vitality, and energy. And firstly, I should say, the reason it's called the leadership beat model as opposed to the energy beat model, which is what I used to call it, is that I realized that really I wanted it to be less of a kind of a nice to have in corporates, and actually to say, look, an essential part of great leadership is having energy. It's having that cognitive function to actually perform at your best so you can bring the best out of other people. And truth be told, whether you're a CEO or a mum or a college student or doing the post, we're all leaders in some way, shape or form, even if all we're leading is ourselves. So really it's about self-leadership as a model. And how do we become the best leaders? Well, we have to be on point mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And once we are, then we can start tacking on all the other management tools and leadership tools and everything else. So really, it is about energy, but I call it the leadership beat model because it's about being the best self-leader. And that part of that is having the fuel and the mindset to be able to drive things forward. So that's just the background on that. But it's called BEAT. So the first letter B stands for brain, and that is really a metaphor for your psychology, your mindset, your values, your beliefs, your identity, the language that you use to talk to yourself and other people, education, growth, learning. So it's everything to do with that part of your aspect. And then you've got E, that stands for elements. And elements is really because it's about air, water, earth, fire, and ether. Now, those 5 things, those 5 elements, ancient Greek elements, are metaphors. So air is a metaphor for breathing. You do yoga, so pranayama, the importance of breath work. And just there's so much around breathing now. People like Wim Hof making it very popular, and a few other people. And then you've got water, which is obviously about water, but there's a fair bit more to water than just water. Earth is around both the food that you get from the earth, but also your relationship to the earth. Are you doing things like grounding, which is like touching your skin on the bare soil, so that you can pull up some nice vital energy really from there. It sounds a bit woo woo.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're a believer. Just if there's any listeners out there, just think back intuitively what it feels like to walk barefoot on the grass or barefoot on the beach. You feel more relaxed. And there is stuff there is science behind this about the negative ions that you're pulling up to neutralize positive free radicals in your body. So earth is around that, but also the food that you get from the earth. Fire is all around sunlight, light therapy, being outdoors. And ether is really about your environment. So your physical environment, is it set up for activity? Is it set up like, have you got a nice tidy workstation? You tend to feel more energized and more productive when things are neat and tidy around you. Are you using shampoos, conditioners, suntan lotions, makeup, which are full of toxins, which by and large most people are? And then also the environment that is invisible around you, from electromagnetic frequencies and Bluetooths and all these other things. So that's air, water, earth, fire, and ether, which is E elements. A stands for activity, which many people think is just about exercise, but it's more than exercise. It's more about movement, daily, regular movement. But even beyond exercise and movement, it's about things like your posture. Do you play? Do you have fun? It's about everything that you do in a day. Do you have passion in your life? Do you offer yourself in service, like volunteer work or something? Do you have a purpose? Do you have strong connections, physical connections, emotional connections with people, community, etc.? And then T stands for tranquility, which is all about rest, recuperation, rejuvenation. So that's things like sleep, meditation, mindfulness, having time off, holidays, fasting, digital nutrition, as I call it, massage, flotation tanks, anything that brings tranquility into your life. So you've got B, E, A, and T. And like I said, we're not always quote unquote on beat, as it were, like day to day, hour by hour. So I think to myself, am I feeling on or off beat right now? If I'm feeling off beat, where do I need to focus from the B, E, A, and T? For example, I might have had my green smoothie today from the earth part of elements. I might have slept well from the sleep part of tranquility. I might be doing my gratitude list from the brain, but I still feel a bit low. And actually, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a sole business owner. I've been at home, and actually I've had no real human to human connection for like 4 days. That's why I'm feeling tired. That's why I'm feeling a bit low. And it's not to say you need to have all elements at their maximum to succeed, because the truth is that you may know people who've got so much passion for what they do, and they don't sleep well, they don't eat well, but yet they get up at 5 o'clock every morning, they go to bed at midnight, they've got all the energy in the world, but that will last only for a period of time. That might be 5 years, it might be 15 years, it might be 25 years, but at some point something's going to break. And so we need to look at all 4 areas, not necessarily all at the same time, and dial those up so that, when you do one thing to excess, you will find yourself out in other areas. But once you start to master it, you can think to yourself very simply, have I been doing some deep breathing today? Have I been drinking enough water? Have I been outside enough? Activity, have I been moving? Have I been using every opportunity to get up and jump and crouch and crawl or walk places? Am I spending time with people that inspire me and energize me, or from energy vampires? And tranquility might be saying, have I rested? When was my last day off? When was my last break from digital devices? So very simply, obviously there's a lot more to it, but very simply, you can just look at those 4 areas and say, where am I from my mindset point of view? Where am I from my feeding my body? Where am I from my movement point of view? And where am I from my rest point of view?
I think it's such a holistic approach. You've basically cover everything. I was ticking everything off in my head as you were speaking. And they're all obvious individually, but together by making the small improvements to your life every day and really focusing on the various 4 elements, you can just see how someone would really raise their vibration and really tap into their inner superhuman. You know, if you just think, if we were all really focusing on this, how much better could things be?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of the subject or the last few lines of my TEDx talk that I gave on this topic. It's like, I think the world needs more, superhuman, awesome, kick-ass leaders at the end of the day. Even if you're just leading yourself, your family, you're going to be an inspiration to other people. And you're going to be able to cope with things. You're going to become more resilient. You're going to have more energy. And I think we need that, as opposed to people, they need that coffee or that Red Bull to pick me up. Then they need that bit of alcohol or some other thing to bring them down in the evening. And they have less sleep because they're working too much, or they've been spending too much time on box sets or whatever it is, that people are doing these things that bring them out of balance very jaggedly. And that's the idea behind this model, is that yes, you're going to be slightly off balance. Yes, you're not going to do everything perfectly. I said this morning, my routine normally would be maybe slightly different. I would be, jumping on a rebounder. I would be doing all these things. And it's not about being so rigid with things that you can't make any flexible movements. I say always flexibility within the framework. But having awareness is always the first step to change and the first step to kind of progress. And so once you've got that awareness, you know what you need to do. Yes, there'll be periods that you're out of balance. Even recently, I went away to like a kind of a big networky type festival by Mind Valley called A-Fest. And I wanted to make sure I had those connection pieces at part of the activity part of the beat model. And now that required me to be up a bit later. That required me to maybe do things that weren't conducive to what I would normally do. And so other parts of the beat model may have suffered, but I was aware of that, and I knew that going into it, and I did that with full awareness, and I knew what to do to get back into balance afterwards, because I made a decision that, yes, having strong connection and, hanging out later at night was more important than maybe getting my, 7.5 hours, 8 hours of sleep that particular, 4 or 5 day period.
So I would like to know, I'm quite curious, Harry, how do you personally unlock your inner superhuman? Do you have a set routine, or do you like to mix it up? How do you make sure that you are covering all the various elements?
Yeah, so certainly I do have routines or rituals which form part of the activity section, which when I was looking at high performing individuals and how this whole framework came about, is that I was thinking, look, you know what, 7 out of 10 people seem to be saying this. 8 out of 10 people seem to be doing this. And one of those things that people tended to say, not everyone, but most people were saying about routines and rituals. Before, we all have routines and rituals. Before, mine was get up, have a shower, jump on the bike, go to work, have breakfast at work, whatever it was. And now I know that actually the really important parts of the day are how you start the day and how you end the day. And they're often the only times of the day that you can have mostly control over what happens. The rest of the day, it's a bit up in the air. And so I do have rituals in the morning, which do involve really some variation of what I call this BMW framework. So if you want to think about being a high performance person, you should think about being a high performance car, which is like a BMW. And BMW stands for 3 things that you might want to do first thing in the morning. In fact, actually at any time, in order to get you more energized. And that is B for breathing, M for movement, and W for water. And so certainly my morning routine will be some breathing exercises, usually in the shower or out of the shower, but also during meditation and quiet time. It will also be reading. I do some lots of water in the morning as well, so warm water. So usually a third hot water and 2/3 cold water, then warm water with lemon. I do about 15 minutes, 20 minutes on a rebounder, which is a mini trampoline. And then I make things like juices and smoothies. So green juices, green smoothies, I have those. And I possibly, depending on timing, may do another sort of half hour, 45 minutes of something like yoga. So all of this, all in all, from 6 a.m. could take me till 9 a.m. depending. It depends on what I'm doing, where I need to be, and how much exercise I do, etc., etc. But usually it's around 15 minutes of meditation, 15 minutes of rebounding, maybe 5-10 minutes of reading a passage of a book that I've been reading for the last 7 years, like a small passage of that. And yeah, lots of water, lots of movement in the morning. Yeah, so that's always that. And then in the evening, I have routines as well around limiting light, limiting technology, especially after 9 p.m. I have a philosophy called 9 after 9, which if any German speakers out there will recognize that 9 means no. So no after 9, which means no what? That usually means no internet, no phone goes into airplane mode. Lights usually start to dim much before that, and then I put these weird blue blocking glasses on. So I do lots of things for limiting light and limiting brain activity, let's say, in the last sort of 90 minutes before bed on a good day. And I avoid looking at the time as well after 9 o'clock, which always perks people up. But simply because usually the last thing people do before going to bed is look at the time and recognize, God, got to get up in 5 hours, got to get up in 6 hours. You just get this short cortisol spike, which is totally unnecessary. There's nothing you can do about it at that time. And so in my head, it's always 9 o'clock, even though it's not really 9 o'clock. And I know it's not 9 o'clock, obviously, but it serves me anyway.
I hope you don't mind. I'm going to steal 9 after 9 from you. I love
Absolutely.
it. It's hilarious.
I'll do it. Yeah, like when I go and do some training on digital nutrition in corporates, and people they go, oh yeah, we're doing this 9 after 9. And 9 after 9 and 9 before 9 technically as well. So I don't turn anything on till 9 a.m. either. I've got tons of these acronyms, which there'll be a big glossary in the book that I'm writing on all the different acronyms that my mum actually tends to hate. But actually I think, look, you know what? If people can remember BMW or BEAT or whatever, they'll start to remember what it is they need to do.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for it. We'll definitely have to include them in the show notes as well. But thank you for sharing your morning and evening routine. My morning and evening routines are sacred. Rarely will I sway from them, because it's really what starts my day off right and then ends it. So, and it's always great to hear about how other people use their time during their routines. So thank you. I've got one more question for you. What is your favorite wellness hack?
It's quite simply, I would say, everything I teach is about keeping it solution simple, KISS, I call it. And really, the simple wellness hack, and one of my friends reminded me of it yesterday, is to drink more water. Okay, it really is liquid gold. It's the elixir to everything. And he came up to me yesterday, and I've been banging on about him drinking more water for a long time. He goes, yesterday I drank twice as much water as I normally drink, and I can't believe just like how much more energy and stuff I've got. And hates me to say it because you're right. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not just saying things for the good of saying things, that I'm saying them because they're valid. So most people, in my experience, in my interactions, are chronically dehydrated, and there's many people who've got different ideas about how much water to drink, and your thirst can indicate it. I don't buy into that. I believe that because I know, for example, when I drink less water, I become accustomed to it, so I become less thirsty. But the simple way to do it, ignoring all calculations, I say to people, probably a bit easier for guys than girls maybe, but always look at your pee. So do the pee test, and the pee, as long as it is virtually clear, it shouldn't be like totally clear, but it should be virtually clear. And you'll get a gauge for it. As long as it's like that, and you can test that each time you go to the toilet effectively, and you can decide whether you need to drink more. But wherever you are, have a bottle of water. Right now, as I stand here talking to you, I've got on one side a 1 litre bottle of water, and on the other side a 1 litre bottle of green smoothie. So I'm always got liquid nearby. So that would be my one wellness hack. And if all you did was drink, more water, it's very hard to drink too much water. I know there's cases of that, and I talk about that in my book, but effectively most people are chronically dehydrated, not overhydrated.
It's true. I'm glad you said that, because we haven't had that on the show yet, and I completely agree. I've always got a bottle of water next to me, so it's staggering how many people just don't make it a priority to stay hydrated.
A lot of people don't like it. My mum included. And actually, one of the tips I put in my second book, Working Well, was about obviously you can mix it up. You can do things like putting cucumber in it, putting lemon in it. But what works for my mum was having like hot water. So I bought her this little water bottle which keeps things quite hot and warm, and she just sips on that throughout the day. She's drinking a lot more water than she ever has done, considering she's gone practically her whole life hardly drinking water, mainly drinking tea. So there are ways that you can make it more pleasant for yourself.
And it's never too late to become a little bit healthier, right?
No, it's never too late, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, listen, Harry, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm 100% sold on the BEAT method. I'm in. I think it's a really wonderful and powerful tool to empower change, and so easily done. So for the listeners, please head to harrykalymnios.com to connect with Harry. He's based in London but works all over the world. Also, please check out his YouTube channel, because there are so many brilliant videos in there. Everything from sleep hacks, happiness and positivity hacks, really uplifting and exciting content. And of course, we'll have all of the show notes at mywellnesspie.com/unlock your inner superhuman, and that's where you'll be able to find all of the links and resources. So Harry, once again, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this chat.
Thank you, Monika. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great, I think presumably rest of your evening out there.
That's right. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on My Wellness Pie. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to subscribe to the show and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. I'd be very grateful and would love to hear from you. And if you want the details from any of the episodes, have questions, or want to get in touch, head to mywellnesspie.com. Thanks again, and I hope to see you next time.